Hi, we're Millie,
Gabby, and Paige,
and this is our podcast about our sexual violence final project.
We did a project on sexual violence, and we met with the head of the Rape Crisis Center, and we asked her an interview
the Rape Crisis Center isn't getting federally funded
regarding
anymore,
resources and
which
what she does
is almost insane. Simply because we need places like this, we need the safe spaces so that people have places to go.
The reason we chose to do this project on sexual
funding,
violence was because as college-age women, we feel that this hits really close to home as we know the severity of sexual violence, especially on a college campus.
When it comes
While we were doing our work, we also learned a lot of really scary statistics.
A lot of it
like
isn't
34%
necessarily a
of
big
women
business, and a lot of it is normally
are
volunteer
sexually
work.
assaulted
So it would be very important
during the age
to
of
get the message out to
24.
officials that these things should be
so we felt
federally
that this
funded
was a
so
really
that people have
important
places to
project
go
to
when
get
they
the
need
word
help.
out about the Rape Crisis Center because a lot of people really don't know it exists.
So with doing this project, we faced a few different obstacles, which were mainly scheduling conflicts, how to get information out effectively to people who may need the information or would just even like the information. And scheduling was a little bit complicated because we're all college students, we all have different things to do. I mean, I work, and then there's also obviously different classes. But we were trying to figure out a way to present information in a way that was sensitive to people's trauma, but also very eye-catching. And those would have to be a few of the obstacles that we faced.
For our group mentor, we recruited Lindy Studs, the executive director of the Rape Crisis Center of Horry and Georgetown counties, and she did an interview for us. These are some of the key points that she made.
Lindy Studs, that's LINDY STUDDS, and I am the executive director for the Rape Crisis Center of Horry and Georgetown counties.
So how we effectively implemented our project, we were trying to figure out ways to put info out that was kind of in a private way. So when we were talking to the Rape Crisis Center lady, she said that we should put it into bathroom stalls and maybe locker rooms, as those are more private places, and it could reach a large audience without making people uncomfortable while seeking support. What do you think is the most effective way to get information to students?
Oh gosh, if I knew the answer to that question, I actually would be making up a lot more money than I am right now, because it's so hard. And you guys, know this, but right now with the age of technology that we are just is what it is now, right? It is a daily part of our life. It's a minute by minute part of our life. And because it's so easy to communicate digitally now, it's so much, everybody's siloed off, and there's not one or two areas you could go to and be okay, 50 years ago, they'd be I'm going to promote this on the TV and the radio and a newspaper, and I'm done. I'm going to hit everybody. You can't do that anymore. There are some people still looking at those things, but there's a lot of people that aren't.
Yeah.
So we actually haven't figured out the best way to do that through media. I think in-person outreach and engagement, like what I'm doing now, where I come and talk to a class, where we participate in a tabling event that might be on the Prince lawn, or things like that, and in-person interaction and outreach has been really successful for us and is important, because to your point, a lot of folks don't realize we exist, but a lot of campus community members are going to need our help or know someone who needs our help at some point. So that in-person outreach is really important and it's been effective, so we look for opportunities to do that all the time. The media outreach is the thing that's really troubling. It's hard.
We feel like people should care about our topic for a lot of different reasons. I think that sexual violence is something that affects so many people in our country and around the world, and that the chances are more likely than not that it will affect you or someone that you know, and so it's really important to be informed.
And then also on top of that, sexual violence doesn't just have to be rape or sexual assault. Sexual violence also leads to human trafficking and sex trafficking, and those are very important topics that I believe that everybody should be aware about.
And on top of that, it's more common than not, and a lot of it's not seen, but it's definitely one of the bigger crimes in the United States. This is Gabby, and this project has taught me that you're never alone, and it is okay to speak to people, and these people are there to help you and get you through stuff like this.
So, my name is Paige, and this project taught me that it's okay to ask for help. Because of the Rape Crisis Center, that means other people asked for help, so that you're not alone. Other people have gone through this, and that if you ever need somebody to talk to, it's okay to reach out. And what I personally learned about this was, as someone who's struggled in the past with sexual violence, that there are resources to help me, and that there are people I can go to if I do ever need anything.
This is Millie, and what I learned from this project were the fact that the Rape Crisis Center exists and that help is always close by, and how not well known they are, and how important it is to spread information about them. And I also feel that, especially through my conversation with Lindy, I really learned about myself, how deeply I feel about this topic, and it really inspired me to want to volunteer there and do more to help the cause.
Something that kind of opened our eyes with our meeting with Lindy was her idea to put flyers in the locker room, because that's like nothing that we would have ever thought to do. But she was explaining to us that a lot of sexual violence is within athletes at Coastal Carolina.
Sexual violence is very prevalent within student athletics, not just towards female athletes, but if you think about male athletics and trends of hazing and some just really awful things that people do to each other, I think it's important for that part of the campus community to hear that information because it's very relevant to them. But also, I think student athletes are seen as leaders on campus for a lot of people, maybe not all, but for a lot. And so if they understand it better and they're behaving in a different way and leading by example, hopefully they as campus leaders can help lead others on campus to doing the same types of healthy behaviors and avoiding the bullshit, which is not good for anybody. And why are you doing it anyway? Yeah. You know?
Specific connections that we made from class readings to this project were chapters 4 and 5 of Pirate Care, and specifically a quote from chapter 5, Organizing Mutiny to Mutualize Care, that says, "What is at stake in kinning practices is the forging of reliable expectations of care that contain promises of mutuality, not based on what is already in common, but on commitment." We found this really important because while some people that work at the Rape Crisis Center and volunteer their time may not have experienced sexual violence in themselves, in their own personal lives, they have a commitment to others and to helping them get through what can be the scariest moments of their life.
Since our meeting with Lindy, this topic has really stuck with me and my group members, and we want to continue to share the word as much as we can and tell as many friends so people can hear about this Rape Crisis Center.
No. Sorry. Hope that helped.
And our last question for you, well, it's 2 questions, but what are the biggest challenges the center faces today? And also, what do you think the community surrounding us can do to help?
So I think the biggest thing is for the biggest way people can help us is when they find out about us, tell somebody else. Mm-hmm. When I said that to you all, please leave this week and tell 2 people about us, which I hope that you all did. I'm not going to ask if you did, but I hope you did. I literally finish every single presentation that way. Because if every person we interact with goes and tells a couple other people that we exist, we're like domino effect, letting people know that the resource exists and at least making them from a high level aware. So if they hear someone needs something or if they need something, hey, I heard about. So I think that's the biggest way people can help us. I mean, donations are always good too. If you're financially able, please send a check or donate online to our cause or any nonprofit cause that is important to you, because nonprofits are having an incredibly tough year and we are suffering. Yeah. One of the biggest challenges right now, to answer the first part of your question, is so part of the challenge is the federal funding the biggest barrier to victims and survivors of this type of thing seeking help is the stigma around it. It is like instant guilt and shame that you feel, even though you shouldn't, because it wasn't your fault. You didn't do anything wrong. Nobody should have ever done that to you. But it is the feeling that sets in, and that feeling is one of the things that is like the biggest thing that keeps people from coming forward. They're just afraid. They're afraid of how people are going to respond. They're afraid of how they're going to be judged. They're afraid of, is somebody going to look at me like I'm used now? Just all these concerns about the perception and the optics it creates. That is the biggest barrier for people coming forward. And then, of course, just not knowing that there were even resources available to begin with. But a lot of people, even who do know that there are resources, whether it's the hospital, whether it's our hotline, whether it's public safety, like whatever it is, a lot of them still won't go and report because they're afraid of the unknown that they will be met with. So I think advocating for survivors and helping people understand that these are our loved ones and our neighbors and our cohorts and our friends, and they didn't deserve this, and why are we re-victimizing them all over again and again and again when we should be supporting them? Because that in turn only supports the perpetrators, and then you're facilitating it continuing. So I think.
So what we would like to tell officials is how that currently that the Rape Crisis Center isn't getting federally funded anymore, which is almost insane simply because we need places like this. We need the safe spaces so that people have places to go to. And with federal funding, sometimes it's the only way that people can have businesses like this and can have centers like this so that people can help reach out. Because normally when it comes to rape crisis centers and homeless shelters and stuff like that, a lot of it isn't necessarily a big business, and a lot of it is normally volunteer work. So it would be very important to get the message out to officials that these things should be federally funded so that people have places to go when they need help.
Part of the challenge is the political landscape for a few reasons. One is we rely on funding, and we get funding from all places. So we get federal funding for victim services, we get state funding for victim services, when we get money from the city of Myrtle Beach. And then we have like local foundations and people that give grant funding, if you've ever heard of like people applying for grants. And then you just have local people or businesses that just give a donation. Yeah. Right? So we have all of those different layers of funding. But the biggest chunk is federal funding. Mm-hmm. So federal funding is at risk. Ever since the beginning of this year with the new administration, and things always change when new presidents come in, administrations, like it always changes. But this year there was so much happening so fast and so furious, and it kept disrupting funding that we had delayed funding. I mean, we still have funding this year that we're okay with, but the following year, we have no idea. We could lose 50% of our funding if the federal funding goes away, and that it would go away if the president gets his budget. So regardless of what side of the political landscape you tend to like lean towards, at the end of the day, we all have a job to do, and we need things to be functional and to keep going. And right now, there's just a lot that has not been functional because of just all the disruptions and changes. And that has been an incredible challenge for us this year. And it's going to extend literally for the next 3 years. Yeah. We are bracing. We're like, okay, we made it through the first year. We got 3 more years to go. And we don't even know if we're going to come out the other side of it. And that's just not us. That's like all nonprofits, truly all nonprofits. It's pretty scary. The other challenge we face right now that's specific to us in gender-based violence. At a national level, there have been recent conversations over the last couple years that, there was like the Me Too movement, and everybody was so empowered and like, everybody's finally listening to us for finally, after millions and millions of years. And then all of a sudden, and again, it kind of goes back to the political landscape, but a lot of our political leaders and top-down leaders that have been speaking to us over the last several years are not supporters of our cause. I mean, we have elected officials and appointed political appointees that are convicted sex offenders. And some of the conversation and the verbiage and the language that comes out from that is really empowering right now offenders and perpetrators to do the things that they all of a sudden felt like they had to stop doing. So I think that is a shift as well that we've seen, where the current national landscape around some of the rhetoric and the different conversations around women and masculinity, and people even getting upset because men are being like dogged on right now. So that's like a whole thing. Have y'all heard about that? Like, men are being dogged on right now. We got to really help our boys and young men because they're feeling beat up. I'm like, well, okay, I get that, but we're trying to educate them to be different, to have healthy masculinity, to like. And then you have people in the national landscape getting all this media attention that are literally being like, no, guys, it's okay. Yeah. They're just trying to make you wusses. We're like, no, we're trying to make you decent human beings that are hurting other people. Yes. But that type of conversation in the national landscape impacts our work locally. It makes people afraid to come forward who need help, and it empowers people who want to do bad things to continue to do bad things. Yeah. So I think that's probably some of the bigger barriers, if that helps. Yeah.
This is Millie,
Gabby,
And Paige.
we hope you enjoyed listening to our podcast.
and we hope you learned something.